Hello everyone, welcome to the next session of SAP Security. In this session, we are going to see how we can develop an authorization concept for transport handling. First of all, you need to understand why we are discussing this topic. The transport handling is one of the most important part in an SAP system, because all the changes, whatever you do, it needs to reach to productive system properly. Most of the companies have a well defined process for how to handle that transport, because this will be also one of your ITGC and SOX related compliance requirement. As we seen, the transport handling, you can create the package from development system and send it to different systems. So in this process itself have different kind of approvals which you can develop. Generally people believe that authorization and the restrictions and the controls, everything required only in productive systems. No, that is not the case. Actually, you need to have a concept in development system and even quality system and productive system. If you see, the development system and quality system also very important systems. For example, if your QA system is down for a day, you can have an impact. You can have an impact on our testing. There is a lot of changes which may be critical to productive system, which cannot go to productive system. You cannot test it properly, and these kind of implications. Let's say if your development system is down, then it can impact your developments, and your lot of developments will be without work for a day. Then it can have a huge impact. So development system and QA system also critical for us. So we need to have an authorization concept for both of the systems. So now you may think, why we need to have an authorization concept? Let's say for QA system, it also required an authorization concept because it may also have quite a lot of sensitive data, because in most of the cases companies will refresh your QA system. That means copy the productive system, put it into QA system to have the actual test data. In development also, it is required to have authorization concept, that who can create TRs and who can release it. That's what we are going to see it now. Because for example, if everybody cannot work on SAP-all in a development system, because development system also is a critical system. So SAP-all should be only with critical people. In general, SAP-all should not be assigned to anybody in any systems. It is not required. In development system also, you can have a perfect authorization concept in case, meaning to say the authorization concept for development system start like this. Basis consultant who will have all the authorizations, but they will not have authorization for user creation and assigning roles. So that will be removed from basis. Apart from that, they will have all authorizations. So this is a start for development. And the workbench related changes can be done only by a ABAP team, or only they can create programs and modify programs and do changes in the objects. And functional team, whoever the functional team, they can do only customizing changes. You have a segregation of duty inside the development system itself. So the workbench related changes, who have a developer key, who will do workbench related developments, and whoever has a functional team, they will do only customizing changes. So we can also restrict this in our authorization concept. Then the next concept is, they will not have all the authorization, they can work only on their limited areas. Once you created the changes, then you will create a transport request. As we seen, whenever you modify anything, you create a transport request. But the person who will create a transport request, he is a developer. This transport request, or the consistency of the development or the program which they have created, needs to be reviewed by somebody else. So let's assume you have a development team who have maybe 50 or 100 people who is doing developments for your development system, but this needs to be reviewed by somebody else before it go to quality, and we tell the customer you do, or a end user, you test this program. So that will be done by somebody, maybe a team lead, or maybe an integration manager, or based on what is defined in your company, or some technical experts, or by a senior consultant. So that senior consultant or the team lead who will have a release authorization. So only that person can release the TR. So what they will do, they will get into the TR and see what are all the objects you are changing and see the quality of your work. Once everything is fine, then they will release the transport request to QA. So you have a segregation of duty. This can be controlled by authorization objects. They will release the transport. So creation and releasing is related to development system. So once it is released, the transport request or your changes will be transported to quality system. Either it can be a workbench change or it can be a customizing. It is transported to quality system. Then let's assume the end user or the key user is going to test it. They will test everything. Everything is fine. They said okay, go ahead, it is fine to go ahead. Now this transport need to go to productive system. Then somebody has to approve this. So there is an approval process. Who will do this approval? Maybe a manager who will do this approval, or maybe somebody, a change management team who will do this approval. So that the approval to production also can be controlled using authorization. So once this changes is approved to production, then it goes to production. The production, the basis consultant will do the import of this particular TR into production. So it will goes to production. So here we don't have any other activity, but we have something called setup. Initially this setup will be done in client 000. We already seen the client 000 is used for some special purpose. Transport management or transport setup is done in client 000, which we will not get into the detail. In a client 00, you will have SAP standard users like SAPstar. So you will use SAPstar and do all the setup. After that, you may not use that client for many things. So that setup is again a separate part which we will not be covered. Let's see how to create an authorization concept for this setup for creation, releasing, approval, and import. So I already created a authorization matrix for this purpose. Okay, this is an authorization matrix for this purpose. So what we did initially, we went to the roles. We found out okay, how many roles which is required. In this scenario, we required 8 roles. So we have the role number 1, which is called full administration for all administration purpose, and we have, let's say, that will be used by basis administrator. Then we have something called transport approver who will approve the transport in the QA system. This is used for QA system. We have change who will do the changes after creating the transport, what you can change, and you have create transport. This is generally assigned to all consultant who can create transport. And you have delete transport request. Why we have a separate delete transport request? It's a different reason. The reason is that you may have some compliance requirement, let's say, or your ITGC controls, or maybe based on your ITIL standards or something, you can have some restrictions. ITIL requirement, you can have some restrictions saying that okay, all the changes which you do in the development system has to be documented and it has to reach production. Let's assume like this. So what happens is, let's say I created some program, I create a transport request. After some time I think okay, this transport request is not required. I simply go and delete this transport request, which again create an inconsistency. The changes what you have done does not reach the production, but somehow it will lost in the middle. So the transport delete authorization is not given to all the users in development system. So this is basically with basis consultant or some restricted people, then they can delete if in the case if it is really need to be deleted. And you have something, another role which is called transport display. You can give it to auditors, for example, because auditors also may need to access the development system in some cases to check the transports and check the quality of the changes which you are transporting to production. That they will also check the consistency of the TRs and how it is linked and etc. So you can give this authorization. And the next one is import the transport request. This is SCC1. For example, we have seen in our previous session that you can import a TR from one client to another client. That is done by the transaction code called SCC1. Then this will be assigned to whoever the consultant is required. Normally what happens in a development system, you will have one client as your development client, and you will also have something called sandbox. Sandbox is generally used for testing purpose, and if you want to play around and do some customizing, then you will use sandbox. Generally people use development system. So if you wanted to transport some changes from your development client to a sandbox client in the same system, then you can use SCC1 and transport it. Then you have transport release. This is for releasing the transport request. Now let's see what are all the transaction code required. Okay, now we have a couple of transaction codes we have selected for this activity is SC01, or this is transport organizer, it's called extended transport organizer. SC03, which we have already seen for searching the transport request, it's called organizer tool. Then we have transport organizer SC09 and SC10. Both of these are more or less same. Then STMS, this is for transport management. For, let's say, you can do a setup in the STMS, also you can use STMS for transporting the TRs. Then we have SCC1, this is for copying the transport within the system to a different client within the system, called client copy, but it's a special selection one, that means to specific transport request. The next transaction code is STMS under QA. This is for QA approval, that will be used in your QA system, and STMS import to import the TRs, that will be used in your productive system. First one is we have full administrator who will have authorization to all this transaction code. So next one is creation of transport request, but you can create transport request but you cannot release it. And the next one is change of transport request, but you still cannot release it. Then you have a next one which has released transport request, who have transaction code SC01 and SC09 and 10, and QA approval, which have a QA underscore STMS underscore QA, and delete authorization also have SC01, SC09 and SC10. And we have transport display authorization, which will have most of the transaction code only with display, and import of transport request, that is SCC1. As I said, if you see all the authorization concept, whenever you create an authorization concept, you create one role called display role, because this may be required in many times, like many times that you want to only give display access to somebody, then you can use this one only for reporting purpose. Okay, let's create the roles. First one is transport admin. Let's go to the system. So let's copy the role name, go to my SAP, go to PFCG and put the role name, say create, menu, say yes. I'm going to add all this transaction, SC01, SC03, SC09, SC11, STMS, and SCC1 and STMS underscore QA and STMS underscore import. Sign. So we have got one wrong. Let me remove that and add SC10. Okay, now it is correct. Authorization, change authorization data, say yes. can see everything perfect. Anyway, we don't need to spend much time because anyway this is going for basis team, so I will simply say save, yes, and generate. Okay, we created now a role for administrator. Let's see some more example. Now I am going to create a role for create transport. Create transport, single role, can create but no release. Okay, then here yes, go to menu, say add SE01 and sorry, yes, SE09 and SE10. So these are all the two transactions. Then I go to authorization, change authorization data, say yes. Now we need to allow only create transport. Say now this is transaction code, this is fine. The next one is STS underscore CTS underscore admin. Here you have already a default some values. This is administration function for transport system. If you select this, this is actually C underscore CTS underscore admin is one of the main authorization object for basis. If you click F1 here, so we got the help. This help, it says it's an administration function for transport system. Then we have all the values which is available here and which has the details. Right now we have EPS1. This means EPS1 generate EPS object. That means in the EPS mean in the OS level that you need to generate these objects. So EPS1 and EPS2 also change this object. That is fine, which is for OS level to generate these objects. That is for EPS generation should be fine. Then we have PROJ. PROJ is to create or change the projects in the change and transport system. You require this authorization value PROJ contained in the initial authorization S underscore CTS underscore PRPS. So if you wanted to use project manager projects in your transports, then you need to use this specific authorization object. We will leave it like this. Then we will go to the next one. This is for C calls in ABAP program. This is also required because there is some C calls in ABAP program, means from this ABAP program you will call some C programs. Don't get confused with this. This is, for example, this is quite very technical for basis. For example, TP commands are all basically it's an C program. So we need to call sometime the TP programs which is in the OS level from ABAP. For that we have a separate object. Then we have S underscore dataset. This is an important object. This S underscore means this is authorization for file access. This provide authorization to access some files in your SAP system or in your local system. This particular object provides authorization to the file system what you can do in the file system. Let's say S underscore dataset means authorization for file access. The activity here, you have quite a lot of activity. You can delete, you can read and write. And physical file name, you can specify physical file name, you can restrict by file name. Let's say you wanted to access some of the files, then you can specify only to that specific file name or the location, and you can also specify the name. So you may think, why do somebody need to access the file? As I said, when you create a transport request and release a transport request, it's going to generate some file in the OS of an SAP. So it's going to be a package, it's a file, it's a physical file. So for that you need to have this authorization. Unless you have this authorization, you will not be able to create these files. So apart from this, why do we need this authorization object? In some business cases, business scenarios, there is a lot of reports that you cannot generate directly into your PC. You cannot download into your PC, so it will be generated in the SAP system. Then you can get into SAP system using some transaction. You can go to your file system in your SAP and view these specific files. For that we will use this authorization object. At the moment it has delete, read and write authorization. The next one is BC. Here s underscore develop, this is for ABAP objects. We have right now only a display ABAP workbench. This also required, let's say if you are getting into some codes, then you need to have this authorization object. Then you have SC61 documentation maintenance authorization. This is again to maintain some documentation. Then our transport authorization is this one, s underscore transport. This is our key authorization. Here you can define what you can do and what you cannot do. So in this case what I will do, let's check what we can do here. We have create, change, display, lock. We don't want to give them delete, and we can maintain, but they should not release. They can do the reorganization, they can assign, and they can also copy. The copy means we can create copy of transports. Let's say you have so many transports together, then you can create a copy of transport that will have collection of all this transport put into one, and this will be called copy of transport. In a restricted case, you will restrict this also to give this authorization to some specific basis consultant or some BC ABAP consultant who have highly experienced to create copy of this transport. Right now we will just leave it like this. Only deletion and release we removed. Say OK. Then we have change request type. What all the change request type we can have? As I said, here we can define whether you can create customizing change request, we can create task, things like this. So if you want to see the whole detail, you simply click here, press F1, then you have all the details. You have customizing means custom, CUST means customizing request, DTR workbench request, task, this is relocation of transport, all types. Like this we have different values and quite number of activities. Now I will say save, generate. We will also create the transport release. Let's go to this one, transport release. Create. For transport release we will have 3 transaction code, release transport, which is we will have SE01, SE09 and SE10. They add SE09, SE10 and SE01. Go to authorization tab, change authorization, yes, leave everything, go to this one directly, and I don't want to give all authorization here. This person can also create, okay, let's assume this person also can create in general this person also can create transport and also can release their transport. And so I will have everything, release, only import is not there. So this person will have create, change, display, lock, delete and maintain and release and reorg, assign and copy. So it's fine. Okay, now what we will do is we will create one user. Let's take one of our user, security student 7. I will assign the first role which we created. Transport create to this user. So I will log in using this user, student 08. Sorry, it's student 07. Now I will go to SE10, create a transport request, or say it's a customizing request. You can also create transport request from here and I add additional objects here. So I will say test BC test transport handling. So I have a transport request. Let me try to release this transport request. You are not authorized to release this task. This one. This also I am not authorized to release this task. Now let's take our second user, student 8. Go to the roles and I will assign the release role. Let me take the release role. Now I will log in with the student 8. Now you go to SE01 and go to the particular TR, or but unfortunately I don't remember the TR number. What I can do is I can go here and say 7 and modifiable. Oh, this is the TR which is created by the student 7. If you see, the TR always carries the owner of the TR. Let's select this and say release, but I have no authorization to release this request. Sorry, I don't know, there is some mistake. Let me see what is the problem. SU53, we are not authorized for SU53 as well. Unfortunately, let me assign this additional authorization for this user. So right now again I am in student 8. Let me go to SE01. Check the transport, try to release /n SU53. I go to search the transport request and select the transport request and say release. Oh, it say no authorization to release the request of other user. Let's see what is the error in SU53. It says something system specific authorization object proxy found. This does not look like something related to your, this does not related, it's something to do with transport management. So what we do, let's trace it. Let's assume that I don't know what is this authorization object. Then let's trace this activity. Right now I am in student 8, then I am looking for student 7. Let me do it, keep it here, then I need to trace this. So I'll go to the trainer user, go to /nst01, go to share. Here we will put security student 08, security student 8, then authorization check on. Okay, now I go to the security student 8, this is student 7, I go to 8, this is student 8. Let's simply go here and try to release it. We got the error. I go back to the tracing and trace it off. Always switch off the tracing before you start analyzing. So analyze, I put the user ID security student 8 and change the time, zero record, because that my time and the system time does not match. The system time is already to the next date. So I have quite a number of authorization check here. It checked lot of yes data, you can see some yes underscore data, it has been checked, everything is 0. I got something 4. It says transport RC equal to 4. It's a activity 73. What is activity 73? So let's have a look at activity 73. Let's go to PFCG. This is the role. To authorization, change authorization data to BC underscore C, transport 73 remove. We also need remove authorization, but this is not delete authorization, this is remove authorization. Remove is basically you are going to release the objects which is locked by this transport. So you go again to the student 8. Now you try to release it. We already assigned. Now you select the request and simply release it. Now we can see it is creating the data. Now it says it is been released. Okay, like this we can create all other roles for the transport management. We can create the role for QA, as well as we can create the role for approval and display transport and SEC1. So SEC1 is basically if you type SCC1, you will get the source client. You can select the source client and put the target number. You select the source client. Let's say you need to be logged in, same like our SCCL. You have to log into the you need to log in to the target system, same like SCCL. You need to log into the target system and type SCC1 and select the source client, maybe like 101 810, then select the transport request, then you can import into the destination client, that it is SCC1. So you can also create a role for SCC1 and assign to the user. Okay, this is the authorization concept for transport handling. With this, we are coming to the end of the session. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next session. Bye bye.